Welcome to Martin Monday's Intentional Intimacy, where love, life, and legacy meet in the moments that matter most. Every week, I will share sacred reflections of my 30-year marriage before Martin's passing, as well as our life now without him. May these reflections help us live with more weight, warmth, and wisdom. Martin was a letter carrier by profession, but a life carrier by purpose. So let's take a moment and let intentional intimacy speak. Hello, friends. Welcome to Martin Mondays, episode 26. This is Paula, and I'm glad to welcome you into today's episode that is actually going to be a little different. This is airing today on January the 26th, 2026, and this episode is right in the midst of a snowstorm. Yeah, we had a huge snowstorm that kind of swept the country, and our lives have been adjusted. Our schedules are disrupted. Life has totally slowed down. School is closed. Jobs are closed. Different things have been adjusted. And watching the snow fall yesterday helped me to realize something. And I realized that snow, it doesn't rush. And it actually changes the environment rather quietly. And those two attributes really made me think about love and made me think specifically about Martin. And so I'm interrupting the normal course of programming because it's important to address this. Love at its truest, it doesn't look dramatic, um, and it looks oftentimes like slowing down when you're already kind of busy. And I don't even like the word busy. So today I want to talk about love as snow. Yes, love as snow. So if you know anything about me, I like acronyms. So of course, snow is going to be an acronym. Now, the S in snow is sacrifice. This is giving of yourself, which quite honestly, I think that was Martin's specialty, a special gift. He had a way of just being selfless that to some extent was almost to a fault. And I really looked forward to him retiring and having a honeydew list. And that honeydew list, quite honestly, was not about things to do for me. It was about things I wanted him to do for himself. And unfortunately, he didn't get to do any of that, but he lived a selfless life. And so I struggled in a sense to try to choose a sacrifice story because, I always try to give you stories here on Martin Mondays because I struggle because his life was so rooted in sacrifice because it's just kind of who he was. It wasn't something that he did. Um, but I think I found a story. And so I'm going to share. Okay. Now, Martin was a letter carrier for 34 years. And on his route, he had easily, 680 some, well over 650 stops. But yet somehow, in a very Martinesque way, he had a way of finding time for people and sacrificing time for people. And so sometimes that looked like helping a young basketball player to remember to bend his knees and extend his fingers, right, with his jump shot. Or sometimes that was helping kids learn how to ride the bikes and running behind them on the bikes. Sometimes that was buying somebody lunch at the local Wawa. But all of those stories I know and I have, but the one I want to share really stays with me the most, and it's from one of his patrons. I received a letter from her when Martin passed away. She was 91 years old. She lived alone and she had just had hip surgery. And she needed to walk every day, but quite honestly, she was afraid of falling. And so Martin sacrificed for her. He would deliver her mail, put it in the mailbox at the end of the driveway. He would go and then ring her doorbell. She would come out. He would walk her down the driveway, retrieve the mail, and then walk her back to the house. His sacrifice in all of this was real. He gave her his time. Um, he gave to her safety. He gave to her some dignity. And he did it all quietly. That was Martin's sacrifice. And I have so many stories where he did things like this. Um, I remember when, during a snowstorm, um, he helped one of my friends, a young mother, single mother, to get back to college. We drove her hours to school, got her Pampers and groceries and all of that. Sacrifice, because it's who he was. Love didn't interrupt his life. It was his life. The N in snow. Nurture. One way Martin loved me and loved others was through nurture. What is nurture? Tending to someone, supporting others, preparing the way. That's what Martin did. He prepared. He thought ahead. He anticipated a need and he would meet it. He made sure that people were supported before they even perhaps knew that they needed it. Oh, observation. Martin paid attention. He was seeing deeply, he was noticing the small things. He always honored who someone was becoming, not just who they currently are. His observations were not in a controlling way, but in a very supportive way. He noticed people and what they were becoming, and it made a difference. The O, did the O, sorry. The W, withness. 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 Martin was all about presence. He wanted to spend time with you. That was very, very big, very, very important to him. And it was a quiet thing. It wasn't about loud things or things that made noise. He just loved simple presence and being with others. And so snow for Martin was sacrifice, nurturing, observing, and witness. I'll reflect on the other side. So, what is the reflection? It's interesting. Martin's birthday was just a few days ago, the 23rd. And here we are on the 26th, being shifted and being interrupted by this storm. And so the snow has completely interrupted our plans and changed our lives in such an unreal and unbelievable type way. But it's also reminded us of something that's kind of important. And that is that love doesn't always look loud. Sometimes love looks like snow. It's quiet, it's covering, and it's present. And it reveals motives, reveals intent, like trying to find some groceries or some rock salt or a shovel was rather difficult because it revealed motives, it revealed intention, it showed the need for preparation. Yeah, snow has interrupted and changed our lives, much like love does. And so maybe this season has slowed you down too, not just from the snowstorm, but you may be in a season of life that has slowed you down. Maybe your plans have been interrupted, or perhaps your routine feels a bit off. Or even still, maybe life is a more quieter than you expected. If so, I hope today's lesson reminds you that ultimately love is still at work. Love is not rushing, it's not performing, it's simply covering ultimately what matters. That is love as snow. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you next week. Martin Mondays continues on Tuesday with the Tuesday tea. Check it out and join me and take a sip. You know, Martin used to say a lot of things. Some were funny, some were wise, but one thing he often said was, wow. Wow. Just those 3 letters. It spoke volumes. It meant a lot. When he didn't know what to say, wow. When he was excited about something, wow. When he was confused, perhaps, or even frustrated, he said, wow. And you know, he's still saying wow. Through this bracelet, he's still saying wow, because he's still saying, may your whole life prove that God is good. And so in closing, that's my hope for you this week. May you have wow moments as you too are living out legacy. Live in the wow. Live in the reality of knowing that your whole life is good. Live in the heartbeat of Martin Mondays and intentional intimacy. May that anchor you in this week as you build legacy, one wow, one moment at a time. See you next week.